Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge Tech Talk, Marine Corps Systems Command's Technologies of Interest. We ask that any questions you have, you post them in chat, and we'll get to them at the end if we have time. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Roy Weiser to do an intro on the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Roy Weiser, bottom right, from NSWC Dahlgren Dam Activity, one of the three acquisition members on the NavalX Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge team. In addition to the two other individuals, Julie Stark and Gerald Walker, we also have our peer partners in the room, 757 Collab, and Tina Bove from C5 BDI. Just as a matter of positioning, we all work out of the Assembly Building in Norfolk, Virginia, on 400 Granby Street. That's where this Tech Talk will be coming from. What we're trying to do is start our naval portion of it with the Marine Corps. And with that today, we're going to have Luis Velazquez, the CTO, and also Jeff Kent, SBIR manager, giving individual presentations, and we hope to expand this to other areas within the Marine Corps in the upcoming calendar year. So without any further ado, I'd like to have turn it over to our first speaker, which is, again, Luis Velazquez, Marine Corps Systems Command Chief Technology Officer. So Luis, you have it, and we'll switch the slides over.
Thank you, Roy. Always a pleasure to work with you. Greatly appreciate the time that you have always done to dedicate to help us there at the Marine Corps Syscom there from your site. So I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Marine Corps Systems Command, as hopefully my slides will come up. Or do I present the slides on this end? Over. Okay, there it is. So everybody should be able to see the slides. This is just kind of a run up of the kind of things that we are working on out of Marine Corps Systems Command. For those who are familiar with the Systems Command, that's great, but some are probably connected, don't even know what a Systems Command is or what an Acquisition Command does. Basically, we are responsible for the acquisition, fielding, sundowning of equipment that makes the warfighters operate. And we also help them in their training by giving them non-standard training devices so they become more lethal. All that takes a lot of interactions with industry partners to trying to find out what's the latest and greatest. So that's where I come in. I'm always looking for what's innovative, disruptive with industry. So I do a lot of reach outs, a lot of market research, a lot of interactions with industry abroad as well as domestic. So in this case, here are some of the current efforts, and I'll just go right down the line and give you a little background of each because it might be applicable to some and maybe might be new to others. So in naval research programs, we work with our fellow organization out at Monterey, California, Naval Postgraduate School, and we put in for research that would be done by either the professors or the students to ensure that when they graduate, it's something that we can leverage over at Marine Corps Systems Command for one of our programs. We have various programs at Marine Corps Systems Command, so it could be something falling on the area of logistics, command and control, and so forth. So we always try to make sure that whatever research can be done at Monterey has applicability when it comes over to Marine Corps Systems Command that we can leverage in the program office. We also do what we call the Navy Office Research and Technology Order functions. That's basically the authorization from O&R, technology transfer. We're designated so that we can issue instruments such as PIAs or CRADAs, Cooperative Research and Development Agreements. There are different instruments out there. I'll go over a list on that in a couple of slides that we can leverage, but you got to have an order rep in order to be able to take that on and do those functions. Otherwise, you won't get the support from the Navy side and could run into some legal problems. SBIRs, I'll leave that up to Jeff Kent about the SBIRs, but remember, I am a member of the senior steering group for the Small Business and Innovative Research. Represent at the working group level for the Science and Technology Alignment Group. That's where all the flag level and GO level, SES level representatives meet at Marine Corps and with Marine Corps Syscom to identify what are the S&T areas that we need to focus on. So the working group level does that level of action for the flag officers. Also work with the Science and Technology Executive Steering Committee. That's the one that the STAG provides the support for, and that's indeed the flag officers and general officers, so that they focus on S&T. So if something's hot and emergent, or technology or capability gap been identified, if someone puts a priority on it between the different organizations, such as, for instance, Marine Corps Warfighting Lab and Marine Corps Systems Command and TCOM, then we pursue that technology knowing that that is prioritized. I also run what is called a monthly innovation modernization working group. That's when I bring in all the program office representatives from across Marine Corps Syscom. I bring in industry, government representatives that have liaisons with industry, as well as some of our other service partners. And we talk about things that are government only in that particular working group. That's done once a month. And I'll get a little more about that in the following slides. There's the annual S&T needs letter. So what we do is we collect from across all the programs under Marine Corps Syscom and the portfolio managers, and we ask them to identify what are their capability gaps in the areas of S&T. We get about a 33-page document when we comprise all the S&T needs. We make sure those S&T needs are applicable to some sort of strategy or other requirements. So it's not just say, I want to do this. It's got to be something that's applicable to whether, like, if we do EABO or force design, but it ties into one of those areas, and then we identify them, and then we put out the S&T needs letter, and we send that out to all the program and warfare centers and industry partners that are working on efforts for us, for them to look at, see what our capability gaps are. Also have the monthly Marine Corps Syscom Tech Talk. That's when I bring in industry partners, international partners, coalition, joint service, academia, industry, all together, and that we do that once a month on the third Thursday of the month. And that's a pretty good engagement, where instead of it being an industry day of me talking to industry about what our needs are, I give them the floor so they can tell us what's innovative, what's something that they believe the Marine Corps is missing that we don't know about, and it's disruptive technology. So it's been pretty good. We've been doing this now for over 4 years, and we have a good turnout. It always depends on who are the presenters, of course, but we've had the big Fortune 5, and we had small business, and that thing turns out pretty good. Enhancement for wargaming tool, Command PE. Some of you may have heard of Command PE, Command Professional Edition. That's one of the modeling tools that I discovered via the Tech Talks. There was a capability gap that came from our portfolio manager that's building the $79 million facility for wargaming on Quantico, totally dedicated to wargaming. It's not the wargaming that you might be familiar with, where you go out to the field and you move, shoot and maneuver, and have Marines doing all types of stuff on the field, and you're doing staff level organization. This is force design wargaming. This is the future of the Marine Corps, how we're going to invest our billions of dollars in budget and how we justify that budget. That's what this type of wargaming we're talking about. So it's a $79 million facility. It'll be completed by FY24. And my role in that is identifying what are the tools that they will be able to use once the building's open to conduct various types of war games to help them force design. In this case, we went to the UK at the request of the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab Wargaming Division, and discovered the industry partner in the UK that made this tool called Command Professional Edition, did the market research, worked with the MOD, did the background checks, identified everything's good to go, and then we put contracts in place. And today, the modeling tool Command Professional Edition is being used by Marine Corps Systems Command, Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, Joint Staff J7, OSD R&E, and on and on and on, Naval Postgraduate School. So it really has blown up since Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, Wargaming Division took it on as a tool they needed, and they identified that to me. I got it for them, and now they're using it. Also, the modeling simulation sponsor for the papers that go into the annual modeling simulation conference that takes place in Orlando, Florida. That takes place always at the end of November and the first week of December. It's the world's largest modeling simulation conference. It's called IITSEC. You may have seen it or known about it. I usually host various forums there. This year, I'll be hosting a wargaming panel at the Focus event. And every year, the IITSEC conference is hosted by a service chief. So last year, it was the Commandant and the CNO. They combined to host the opening event. This year, I believe, is the Air Force that is going to be the service chief that is opening up the event. So it's pretty good. It's a week-long event, lots of stuff, a lot of industry partners, a lot of things there. Project Overmatch, well, I can't talk really a lot about it, but I'm involved with Overmatch, and it really is from the modeling side and I'm hosting the modeling simulation. I'm hosting the Project Overmatch Technical Exchange meeting that will take place on the 6th and 7th of December at 105 Technology Parkway in Stafford, Virginia. So we're bringing all the naval syscoms that are involved in supporting Project Overmatch. They will all be there, and those that can't be there physically will be connecting via secure VTC. So I'm putting that together. Project Tripoli. So the Marine Corps is looking at fully integrating all our modeling simulation capabilities under LVC. So that way you have a simulation tool that you can use for instance, small unit training to be able to tie into a constructed model that can do a battalion or higher. Campaign level modeling, you can integrate the two. So you can still have an individual that's, for instance, doing logistics, do their part in the virtual world, but it would stimulate the tactical picture so that the commander who's running the exercise will believe he has logistics vehicles in support of his exercise, when in reality there is no logistic vehicles out there. That's the beauty of LVC. So also bringing in, integrating the aviation aspects of that, indirect fire, close air support. So Project Tripoli is pretty big, and that's being done by Training and Education Command. My job is in supporting the LVC and also supporting my boss in the technical authority for what are the standards and the protocols to integrate each one of those systems. US-Japan high water speed. I'm also working international programs. So in this case, the Japanese reinterpreted their constitution about 4 years ago. Now they can do offensive capability. If you have some history of World War II, you know that when MacArthur set up the government in Japan post-World War II, that it said in their constitution they cannot do anything offensive in terms of capabilities. As the raising tensions in South China Sea with China, they reinterpreted their constitution without having to rewrite their constitution. So now they have the ability to do offensive capability. So they reached out to the Marine Corps saying they want to be able to establish their own offensive, capable, high water speed vehicles. That way, if they have to go island hopping to take back some of their islands that might be taken by an aggressor, we then leverage our knowledge of previous high water speed vehicles we had under our designs and shared that with the Japanese government via the MOD using official documents, so we call data exchange agreements, information exchange agreements, and eventually what they call a project arrangement, which is funded for 5 years. We're now in year 3 of 5 of that effort, and my role in that is supporting the model-based system engineering, coordinating with Cotterock, and as well with ONR on that effort. M&S officer for NPS coordinator. That also means that we get NPS officers assigned to Marine Corps Systems Command. My job in that is to ensure that we get one in the queue, so when our M&S officer rotates out, there's another one right behind him, and we have that in place. And then in my office, we also do what they call technology readiness assessments. Program offices will continue to progress their programs, but they need to have an independent authority to evaluate the readiness. They can't do it on their own. That's obviously, if you did that, then there would be a conflict of interest. So it then comes to my office, and we set up the process for evaluating the technology readiness of the program that's being constructed by the program. Okay, there's a lot being said there, but that's great. Next slide, please. Next slide.
It's coming up, Louise, just a second.
Okay. So as that slide is coming up, you'll see that there's some business areas that we work on specifically. Everything I gave you in that itemized listing prior is really here generalized and aggregated. So it goes from simulations all the way to model-based system engineering, pretty much involved with everything involved. Some highlights of our tour here back in 2014, when we came up with one of the first modeling tools to do trade-off analysis. That was called Framework for Assessing Cost and Technology. It won the 2014 Innovation Award, where it was presented by the CNO and at the time, Acting Secretary of Defense. So it was pretty good to get that award. But that showed the kind of discipline that we had brought into the office to kind of figure out if there's a capability gap, a need for our program offices to help the acquisition effort. What can we do to work with industry and our engineers and the warfare centers to bring that to reality? And that's what the 2014 Innovation Award. These days, all the stuff that we had worked on to win that award has now been commercialized. So you can go out and buy Creo or Innosolate or any of these other model-based system engineering tools, and they're doing exactly what we had put together through a lot of effort and got very expensive. But today you could just buy a license and get that via the same licensing tool and same functionality, and even better, which is okay because things progress and that's what you want. Next slide, please. So this here just shows methods and means which identify what are the things that I kind of focus on from the ORDA, Office of Research and Technology Applications. You get that designation from the O&R Technology Transfer Office. That allows you to then do things like Partnership Intermediary Agreement, the PIAs or the CRADAs, and other instruments. So I just identified those two as the ones that I kind of focus on here at Marcor Syscom. I also could bring up the S&T needs letter and we use that to try and simulate the NICE funding that's being done at the warfare centers that happens annually. Sometimes those warfare centers will combine 2 or 3 warfare centers will combine their funding so they can do one what we call mega project. And so I bring up to our commander and to the system engineering SES what a recommendation would be, like long range fires or something like that to be a mega project, and they would agree to that. OTAs, very, very familiar with other transactional authorities. So we work with the program offices if they want to pursue that. MPS Research, Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, Rapid Capability Office. They work the experimentation side. If we already know the answer to a particular effort that we're about to build on, then it's not an experiment. So when there's things we don't know the answers to and it needs to be prototyped, we give that to the Rapid Capability Office, and that's their job to help us better inform our decision making based on the prototypes. That usually takes about 1 to 2 years. Then we have SBIRs, and Jeff Kent's going to talk about the SBIR effort. We have setters and RIFs. Once again, Jeff Kent, who's next, will talk about those pieces. And then FNCs, which are naval capabilities. So I just put a table there to show you the different things and how long it usually takes for those things to mature once you start working on those particular efforts. All right, next slide. So the next slide is going to show some of the things that we focused on. Now I'm going to dive into kind of like the model-based system engineering. So if we want to transition our organization at Marcor Syscom to leverage model-based system engineering, obviously you can't just sign an order, a policy, a procedure, and overnight everybody's MCSC smart. That doesn't work that way. Leveraging the knowledge we've seen from other organizations, other Syscoms, making their efforts to convert their workforce to leverage the modeling tools. We focused on things such as governance, who are the partners, the infrastructure, and the workforce. Each one of those have very specific things we need to focus on to be successful. So like I said earlier, can't say, hey, we're on MBSC, let's go. We got to have a pilot program. We got to have some means of doing the talent management, knowledge retention, and of course recruitment, so that the generation coming in, when they come in expecting to use modeling tools that they use at the university level, and we show them that we don't do that here, it's going to be very hard to retain them because they're very smart. So we want to make sure that we have tools readily available for those who come in new into the workforce to be able to contribute to their program office. And we do that leveraging NSERC. NSERC has a modeling capability that's online. We pay for licenses, and then those junior engineers can still use the tools that they learned in the university level when they come here to Marcor Syscom, as well as be able to train those who are senior engineers that have no tool expertise to get them into the orientation courses so that they can get smart and stay in the know. Even though their job may be more supervisory, they should still have knowledge of what are those modeling tools that are out there so that they can then mandate when they go out for a future award on contracts that vendors produce modeling capabilities in formats and standards that can be archived and reused in the future. So a lot of work, a lot of effort in that regard, but it keeps us busy. But this is kind of the areas that I focus on when trying to help and assist the program offices to go to model-based system engineering. Jamie Howell is our lead for that. Some of you may know him. He's retiring this December. So we're still going to continue to work this effort, but he has been doing a lightning speed work in this, and I greatly appreciate his effort in model-based system engineering. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a little bit more on one of the monthly events that I coordinate at Marcor Syscom. That's when I bring in all the government-only side of the workers, so that we can talk about things that are emergent among ourselves, talk about what we need to modernize, some lessons learned, kind of hear what someone needs help with. We have advanced technology integrators that are located in each of the programs. They're normally the ones that participate in this innovation modernization working group. Sometimes I bring an industry partner to talk at the much more gov level discussion forum about a technology that might be of interest. It could also be about a standard. Recently, we had one that on modular open system architecture, which is fantastic because that helps you greatly reduce the footprint of technologies that you need, for instance, on mobile communication platforms on a vehicle. If you adopt MOSA, modular open system architecture, you reduce the footprint, the power, you can then optimize. It's a lot of things there that MOSA provides. So we had an industry partner come on deck and demonstrate what we currently use and what it can go to if we all adopt MOSA. So that's the kind of stuff that we bring into the IMWG. Next one is the Tech Talk. The Tech Talk is also a monthly event, always the third Thursday of the month. So on the technology, the Tech Talk, it's a more of a industry partner perspective of what they feel we're missing. So we give them the floor, and it's the reverse of an industry day, and it's very good. So I want to make sure we're on the slide 6. If we can get to the next slide. Thank you. So here's just showing you a lineup of that Tech Talk. It's always third Thursday, goes from 1 to 1300 to 1600. And we'll have General Dynamics, Teradata, D2IQ, UNC Chapel Hill, Fortress Information Security, 327 Solutions. You have big and small business partners presenting. The good thing about this is that through the Tech Talks, I get to engage with the industry partners, get to do market research. I introduce them to the program offices, and sometimes it works out quite well. They get an award. For instance, Teradata, that's listed on here. I met with Teradata in London during my market research on the Command Professional Edition wargaming tool, found that their analytics was really beyond what I had seen from other industry partners. I introduced Teradata to the program office that is working the wargaming capability. And then I just found out that they got awarded a contract to be the analytics for the Marine Corps wargaming facilities modeling tool called Pioneer. So that's a big win right there. But the Tech Talks give us that insight about what are we missing, what are the industry partners doing, and then we do connect the dots following that. So it would usually go, for progression would go, I find something out in industry, do a little market research, bring them into the Tech Talk, they do further discoveries from the Tech Talk. Then if we want to go in and deeper dive, I bring them to the Innovation Modernization Working Group, where it's now government only, and they can talk to the program office or to the SysComs or the warfare centers or other partners that are going to be in the room and get more insight about what the capabilities are. So it really works out well. Next slide, please. Some photos from previous events where you show here working with our international partners via a project arrangement. In this case, this is a cementing deal for us to provide the Japanese government with the technologies and the analysis as they go about building their high water speed capability. So the screens here in the quad chart, top left, talked about the concurrent engineering toolkit. We had a concept for how that would work. Went to Japan, met with them. We did concept modeling. That's where we got their idea for how they envisioned their future. And we went from non-measurable to measurable requirements and helped them with that, and then fed that into the system so we could identify what their requirements are for their high water speed. The bottom left shows that the terms of reference that we put in place so that way we can work with Japan. And that document was signed by Marine Corps Warfighting Lab and Marine Corps Systems Command as the signatories. And then the fourth photo on the bottom right is the site visit from the Japanese government to Marine Corps Syscom as part of our annual visit that they come here, we go there with that project arrangement. Next slide, please. Also working the concepts here, not just talking about, we have a need. When one of the program officers said they have a need, we go running. And I mean, we literally try and get everything we can to get that program officer successful. So these photos here, top left shows Marine Corps Warfighting Lab back in 2015, identifying they want to have a dedicated facility for war gaming. So I was there. The slide that's up in the back on the top left was my slide identifying all our current capabilities that we have and our modeling tools, and it would fall short of meeting force design requirements. Then writing an article in the Marine Corps Gazette on the top right. Then the program office was stood up in 2017, and that's then at that time Lieutenant Colonel Monta, today Colonel Monta is the portfolio manager. He was the first program manager for that wargaming capability. And then meeting with the industry partners to bring in and how do we field out how do we fill out the tools that we would need in that facility, which is the $79 million facility that we're building on Quantico. And that's what the bottom right photo shows. So that's just kind of showing an ecosystem where once a program office tells me what they want, I am like a pit bull and I will attack and go to every resource to make that work. Next slide. Following up engagements, again, with our international partners, here we met with the DSTL. The DSTL is the equivalent to the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab in the UK, located in Portsdown in UK. So we brought out the entire Marine Corps Warfighting Lab team, as well as the Program Office for Wargaming and the SCS from System Engineering, Acquisition, and Logistics, as well as NPS to meet with them. Had follow-up meetings there in the top right with them in Matrix headquarters, identifying our requirement capability gaps. Then on the bottom left, we met with KBR, which is one of the lead contract primes on the DTIC contract vehicle that we're leveraging. And then the bottom right is Teradata, which today Teradata is now part of that contract award for them to be the lead analytics for the wargaming capability. So there's always goodness when we get a chance to go out there, pound the flesh with the industry partners, find out what they have, kick the tires, and if it works, is relevant, put them on contract, and let's bring that capability to bear for the program offices. Next slide, please. Some photos from the monthly Tech Talks. I know I talked about it quite a bit, but some folks, if you haven't seen it, here is just showing that it goes from government to industry. And the goodness of what these photos show here, top left, you have Lieutenant General from who runs it was CD&I back in 2017 coming to the Tech Talks. You have the industry partners doing demonstrations on site as part of the Tech Talks. Bottom left, you have Dr. Boris Stillman, who ended up, as a result of the Tech Talk, being part of one of the awards we have on the contract vehicle. So just once again, getting the industry partner, finding out what their capability gap, what capabilities are. Does it match our capability gap? Do the research, market research, down selecting, find out they're right, set up the award, and then they're successful. So that's what these photos are showing here. Next slide. All right. So I know it's pressing for time, but I wanted to make sure everybody knows about the S&T needs letter, because this is really what the part that's really relevant to all the warfare centers that are looking to support MARCOR SysCom. Next slide. The process that I go by for setting up the S&T needs letter, obviously I can't sit down and say these are needs for MARCOR SysCom. I have to vet that out through our program offices, and I use what we call the advanced technology integrators that are resident within the program offices to provide their feedback. I then consolidate that in further, work that with framework, and we vet it, and then we get the documents together for the DC seal review. And once it's been reviewed and socialized, we then send it up the chain for a dual signature. So it's going to be signed by MARCOR SysCom and the PEO from Land Systems. And once that's signed, it gets sent out, and that's, next slide, will give you the needs letter process. We're looking at what should be and we're doing this every year. Every time we do S&T needs letter, okay, what are we doing right? What should be dropped? Are we being redundant? Always state what's the purpose of the letter. We want to make sure we're sending it to the right organizations. We want to make sure that we're always identifying in our S&T that there's always a higher level of guidance that it applies to, whether it's force design, Marine Littoral Regiment, project overmatch, etc. So that it's just not someone says they need this. There has to be a reason, a strategic reason why this device or capability gap exists, and we want to fill it. We make sure we have the individual programs that identify the gaps, and we stay on message, on schedule, so we can have that document signed and out to the program offices, out to the warfare centers, so that we can try and kind of influence their 219 NICE funding so they can help the Marine Corps. Next slide. And here's just an example of the letter that was just recently signed by the commander and the PEO. The page there on 14 on the right shows you the entry of what a typical S&T needs looks like. So it's summarized. It talks about who identified the need, for what program office, what strategic value, what strategic guidance does it fall under, what is exactly the capability gap, a little bit of narrative of the capability gap. And basically, the important thing is it identifies who to contact. So if you think you're building on something or have something very similar in your office, in your shop, that can help Marine Corps Systems Command in this particular capability gap, you can reach out directly to that individual and say, hey, I think I have what you're looking for on page 26 of this 33-page document. I'm at Dam Neck, or I'm at Cotter Rock. I have this capability. Let's talk. and then they will follow up with you on that and make that work. Okay, so I know I had 30 minutes, but I want to go through that. So I hit the 30-minute window. All right, any questions?
Luis, I think right now we're gonna, we'll hold questions to the end if you can hang around for a little bit, and I'm gonna turn it over to Jeff for his presentation.
Excellent. Okay, Jeff, it's all you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Kent. I'm the program manager for the U.S. Marine Corps SBIR, STTR, and RIF programs, basically the innovation research that we buy. Are the slides available? Okay. All right, so we are, by an agreement, we manage the program for the entire Marine Corps, except for the aviation I'll talk about in a minute. That includes the affiliated PEOs, primarily PEO Land System, and the Joint Forces JIFCO office. It used to be the Joint Non-Lethal Office. My program office staff is fairly small. It's myself and our transition manager and our operations manager. We have a generic group email. It's on that slide there. All right, next slide, please. All right, just to reiterate, this is the mission of the Marine Corps Systems Command and our affiliated PEOs, and simply stated, is to buy everything for the Marine Corps except things that fly. And so we focus our innovation research on those areas. Next slide, please. Okay, and so Marine Corps Systems Command is organized around the way that the Marine Corps fights in the MAGTF organization. And there's a command element on top. There's a ground combat element, a logistics combat element, and then an aviation combat element. And for our aviation systems, NAVAIR buys all of that for the Marine Corps, the MV-22, as you see in the picture there, the Joint Strike Fighter, the UAVs that we fly, and associated equipment, I think C-130s, et cetera. So we don't focus on that. If there's interest in aviation topics for the Marine Corps, NAVAIR works under the Department of Navy SBIR program, and I have direct access to their SBIR program office and manager, as well as ONR and even NAVC when we do integration within naval ships. The other note, it's not on this slide, but they're primarily PEO Land Systems procures all of our ACAT-1 and ACAT-2 programs. So they spread across these three areas that you see here, and they're responsible for the big acquisition programs. But we manage all their SBIR money and all their SBIR efforts. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so if you're not familiar with the SBIR program and the STTR program, this is a quick overview slide. Phases 1 and 2 are the part we manage with SBIR money. And phase 3 is, I'll talk about in a minute, is parts that are managed by other people that cannot use SBIR money but get some benefits. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's paid for by a fee or a tax, if you will, that is required statutorily, so programs don't have an option. It's approximately 3.65, or it's exactly 3.65 of their extramural R&D funds. And extramural defines a set of programs. Certain programs that require a high level of clearance are exempt. They're the intramural programs. And that's primarily because SBIR is required to be executed by small businesses here in the United States, and a lot of those small businesses can't afford nor have the staff and the facilities to do above secret work. We do up to secret work in some of the projects. So next slide, please. All right, so here's what we do. If you want to do a basic research project, and my analogy is always, I'm a little older, but it's a transporter from Star Trek. And so I can write a requirement. I said it would be nice for urban combat to take a Marine fully equipped, dissolve him or her, and send him on a radio wave and reassemble him inside a building ready to fight. I can validate that that would be a great capability. We need to have that capability. However, the technology is not there, so we really can't build it today. So if you're interested in that kind of phenomena research on how would I radio transport material items, again, the Star Trek transporter or similar, we push that back to agencies like the Office of Naval Research and DARPA to do that, or even other non-SBIR STTR kind of things where the technologies and basic research money that the Department of Defense sends to universities for such research. That's not what we focus on. So we focus on, and I don't like to say TRLs, I like to say we focus on areas in the R&D community that are 6.4, 6.5, and 6.7. A lot of our stuff is really 6.7, right? So the first one is the adaptation of COTS technology for military use, right? And the biggest thing we see in the Marine Corps is a lot of good COT stuff, and it either uses too much power or it's too big, particularly for ground units. Our infantry squads are typically 13 Marines. They go out there with, the males, I believe, go out there with in excess of 100 pounds, and the female Marines go out there in excess of 70 pounds of extra stuff over and above their body weight they carry around. So anything we can do to lighten that, and power is heavy. We've got to carry batteries or fuel, water's heavy, you name it, we look for that. Next, we look at achieving capability requirements through affordability, right? Are there alternative sources? Next, we look at things to achieve life cycle cost savings, even particularly fuel economy is a good example of that. Next one is enhancing existing capabilities. So a lot of times at the end of the day, the production unit is not fully what we really wanted, but it's functional, right? It meets the requirements, it passed its operational evaluation, but there's always needs or desires above threshold that people want. So we look at those capabilities. And finally, for a lot of our large acquisition programs, we did quite a bit on the recently fielded ACV, this amphibious combat vehicle, but the prime contractor had processes, and the government and contractor team identified high risk areas. And so the prime wasn't going to address them, they were just identified. We did a few SBIR topics to look at different approaches should the prime's approach not be suitable for the final system. So it doesn't have to be a final product. It can, a lot of the times on the vehicle systems, there are little pieces, parts that go into the vehicle that make the vehicle significantly better. We have one technology we're working on today in conjunction with the Army, and it basically, a lot of our trucks are heavy and they require the brakes to be replaced very often. Not like your car, 20 or 30,000 miles, but talking sometimes hundreds of miles because they're very heavy vehicles. Well, today, some of those vehicles take upwards of 6 Marines in a forklift to change the brakes because you got to pull the tires off. We're working on a system through the SBIR program that requires 1 Marine 30 minutes and no removal of a tire. So again, it's not a big rocket science kind of thing, but it's a really innovative approach to solving and maintenance issue and reducing the time that the vehicles and the trucks are out of service because they need their brakes replaced. Okay, next slide. All right, so when we get done with phase 1 and phase 2 and we invest on a successful topic, we'll typically invest in up to 3 companies for phase 1, so we can look at 3 different approaches, pick one of those for a phase 2. And then if that phase 2 is successful, do a second phase 2. So that investment is roughly $3.5 to $4 million. And that's it. That's all we can legally invest on SBIR money. Program offices and other people, private industry as well, can invest, but that's all we can do. But the beauty of a phase 3 is that once the firm has won a phase 1 or a phase 2, the government can award a phase 3 contract without further competition because the competition was satisfied by the phase 1 or phase 2 contract award. And that's statutory. It shortens up the award time on contracts because we don't have to go out on a competitive RFP. We just go out for a request for proposal. It also satisfies, in a lot of cases with the small businesses, their requirement for small business participation in an acquisition strategy. And in fact, there's a SBIR preference that's in the law. And so the government shall award or must award to a SBIR developer to the greatest extent practicable. So if that company for the brakes I mentioned, if somebody has a different way of doing it, we should still take that approach because they have the preference. So we have a lot of advantages, and on a SBIR phase 1 and 2, it's generally a cost plus contract, or a phase 2, where the government assumes the risk, and we buy a prototype at the end of phase 2. On a phase 3, you can buy a full rate production item, you can buy follow-on support, you can buy training for it, you can buy finalization of all the documentation you need, and you can continue the research for a phase 3. So a phase 3 is a good instrument. It does not have to go, the business does not have to be small anymore. So a lot of times our research institutes, 500 employees or less, license or otherwise sell off the design, if you will, such that other firms who specialize in manufacturing can proceed with it, including our large defense contractors. So for phase 3, they do not have to be a small business anymore. And like I said, the contract type does not have to be in a research guide or a cost plus contract. It can be any sort of thing that's appropriate. We do IDIQ kind of contracts, and again, we do GSA schedules. There's all sorts of approaches for it. So the success of a SBIR is something that transitions. That's the ultimate success. We had a concept and it transitions. That concept of the brake was written as a topic that said provide a easier brake replacement system, brake pad replacement system. Another example we have today, our corpsmen carry these 150-pound medical refrigerators. They keep blood at the correct temperature. They keep the blood and they monitor the controls. So if it faults, the medic knows the blood's not good. They run today on about 12 hours, and they're heavy, like I said, 150-something pounds and fairly large. We put a topic in that to just build a better medical refrigerator. And the one that is getting ready for production is running upwards of 72 hours on one set of batteries. The batteries are hot swappable. They're identical to the batteries that are in the 117 Gulf radios, so they're not a unique battery. And the medic can carry it by him or herself without requiring a second Marine or soldier to assist them with the refrigerator. And it fits better in the helicopter. It's FDA certified for transporting blood, and it's also shock and vibe tested to ride on a helicopter. That was funded with roughly $3 million more of SBIR funds, almost completely. The back end buying on that is the production stuff, right? So we don't buy production typically. We're going to buy the research and development, get prototypes. We got several prototypes out of these contracts such that we could get FDA certification. And the program office is picking up to replace all the medical refrigerators the Marine Corps owns with the new ones for the investment in the SBIR program. And they get to do it to the same firm via the phase 3, and the firm is figuring out how best to manufacture it. And I bring this up too, it really, sometimes we call it a fancy beer cooler, right? But if we really think about that, again, it's not rocket science. It's not putting somebody on the moon, but it's a whole mix of engineering disciplines. So first, it has an HVAC system, typically a mechanical engineering specialty. It has a control and monitoring system and a battery recharging system. That's an electronical engineer specialty. It has super insulating material. That's a materials engineer specialty. It has a structural design for the shock and vibe, again, another mechanical engineering discipline. And it has all the requirements to get the FDA certification. We actually have a medical engineer on board with our command, but that's another specialty medical engineering. So you take all those disciplines, put them together in a small business, and you come up with an innovative solution to solve a problem, if you will, that our medical refrigerators don't last very long. The legacy one also, the battery is hardwired in. So you have to plug it into a power source to recharge it. Whereas I said, the new one, you just swap in and out the batteries that are in there. There's two, and so one's in there, runs the refrigerator. And we added a new feature to it. I don't think the legacy one has it. Turns out blood doesn't want to get super cold. So if you take the refrigerator to an Arctic environment, there's actually a warmer plate built in to keep it from getting too cold, from freezing the blood too cold. So again, it was just an example of something that one of our engineers thought of. Hey, we need this topic. And we put that topic forward. There's nothing rapid about SBIR because it's competitive for the first 2 phases. It takes us almost 2 to 3 years to get a working functional prototype for government assessment. But allows program offices to get prototypes for assessment and make a further military utility decision. It allows the companies to look how to transition them or commercialize them for other uses. And we look how to transition them into programs or into useful elements within the Department of Defense, particularly the Marine Corps. One of their caveats, all SBIR topics are written by government people, so companies are not allowed to suggest topics. That's unfair. It's a full competition program. It's technically not full and open because all the bidders have to be less than 500 employees, and they also have to be US based and majority US owned, and all the work has to be done. All the analytical and research work has to be done in the United States. So that's kind of that. Let's go on the next slide. I think that was it, right? This is our slide from our public affairs office for our thing. But if you read the Commandant's quote there, right? So SBIR plays a role in this. And we always look to the warfare centers to augment our government oversight teams, both in our technical evaluations for source selection and in our technical oversight. So we have warfare center employees supporting us from many of the naval warfare centers and from the Army. So that's all I have on the SBIR for today. Any questions?
Thank you, Jeff. I actually had a quick question for you. With the SBIR reauthorization that happened at the end of FY22 and the new requirement for all the DoD agencies to come up with an open topic plan within 180 days, I was curious as to where the Marine Corps was with that.
So we fall into the Department of Navy program. And in fact, at 1 o'clock, we have our next meeting on that. So the Department of Navy, and this is not for public release, is working on an open topic that will go out in an upcoming solicitation. We have not finalized that, but we are going to meet the requirement. We have not determined within the Navy how many topics we're going to have and to what extent. I will say from my personal perspective, open topics, we're trying to maximize their effectiveness. We really look hard at technology pulls. Open topics tend to need technology push. In other words, a company has a concept, here's my concept, how can you use it? We, on the other hand, like I said, have a requirement or a need or a deficiency. And so we go out and say, hey, this is our problem. What technology can you fill it with? So I'm not a big fan of technology. I'm not a big fan of the open topic, but we're coming up with an approach, and within the statutory time that Congress put in there, we will have ours will fall within the Department of the Navy. Okay, any more questions?
Yes, Jeff.
Yes, I have a question for both of the presenters. This is Eileen with the Tech Bridge team. We have a question in chat whether or not the presenters will provide their personal contact information, or if you have someone else you would prefer for them to reach out to for more information.
Well, for more information on the SBIR side, please use the SBIR.admin email that's on the front slide.
And Luis?
Yeah, so I'm just pasting my contact info. I deal with a lot of folks on LinkedIn, so that's probably the easiest. And then from there, we go to DoD side. So I'll just go ahead and post it there. So I'll send it to Tina, and then Tina, if you can relate that to everybody, I guess. Is that how it works?
Luis, I already put your LinkedIn profile in the chat, so I think that will suffice. So if anybody on the call wants to reach out to Luis, you can contact him on LinkedIn, which I already put in the chat.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Luis, what is the best way if there is a small business that thinks they have innovative technology that could, for your tech talks, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you to potentially participate?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best. Through LinkedIn is where I've gotten a lot of communication with industry partners, and then I follow up with them. And normally starts off with introductions over LinkedIn. Then I make a request for a PDF that's either a white paper or info paper or a short presentation of the topic they wish to present. Then it's a MS Teams session. We'll have that development on the concept they're looking to present, make sure it's suitable for the Marine Corps appetite. And then with that, it's a scheduling. Currently, our schedule for the Tech Talks is filled out to August of 2023. So anyone we book now would be in the August 2023 window. We are pretty much filled up between now and then. I don't know if Roy shared with you our schedule, but that's open public. So we've got a listing of everyone who's presenting from November all the way to July. So all our presentations that we're scheduling now would be August 2023. A lot can happen between now and August 2023 as well. We've had where folks waited 4 or 5 months, and when it's time to present, the person who's coordinated it had left the company. So we find that as we get closer to the Tech Talk presentation, I do send out just to validate that the individual's still there and that topic is still something they want to discuss, even though it's 4 or 5 months since the time that they made the request.
Right, and this is Jeff. Let me also add from the SBIR program. So we don't take unsolicited or ideas from industry because that's a violation of the competition. However, our Office of Small Business Programs, and I believe if you look on the cover slide, that's the homepage to our public website, Marine Corps Systems Command. If you go to OSBP, they also have an email. And so if I do get unsolicited ideas, I just send them over to that program office. AJ Johnson's the program manager. And then he distributes them within the command where appropriate. So again, please do encourage anybody who has a small business idea for the Marines to contact our OSBP program.
Great, thank you. Did we have any other in the chat?
Yeah, we have a question here about the Rapid Innovation Fund. Is it still active?
No, maybe 24. We have a new fund that is called the APFIT, and it's a procurement fund to buy small business systems that were done with SBIR but don't have their procurement money yet, but possibly in the future. It's an OSD competitive fund. We competed last year and didn't get any selections. We're going to compete again this year if we have stuff that meets the criteria. So it was a kind of not a replacement, but kind of in the same line, because it's money that went to the OSD, and so the undersecretary makes the final decision. We've been told that for once the DoD in 24 is going to palm for RIF money. RIF money hasn't been funded, I think, since 2018. Congress has zeroed out the line. It's still in the budget, but it's been zeroed since 2018. So no expectations at this point that they're going to add RIF money.
Any other questions from anyone? You can post them in the chat.
And then I'll just say, again, if any questions come in, we'll grab them. But we have a quick, short survey that we ask you to take. If you pulled out your phone, you can scan the QR code. Eileen has also posted the link in chat, and that will trigger us to send you the slides for that we just went through. So please take 2 minutes to take that short survey. And then we do have an upcoming Tech Talk on December 14th, where we're going to have Defense Innovation Unit, and in particular, the National Security Innovation Capital group within DIU is going to talk about their program. So if just how you signed up for this one, if you go to our Eventbrite page, you can go ahead and get signed up for that.
I have one question for Louise. How do they gain access to the S&T letter?
Okay, so the S&T needs letter right now, the circulation is going out to all our government representatives. So whether it's the Warfare Centers, Marine Corps Warfare Lab, ONR, I believe that through that, some of the industry partners who are supporting the Warfare Centers or the program offices may have received a copy. I don't know about that yet, but that's where the designation letter is supposed to go to, through signed by the PEO and MARCOR Syscom. So if there's someone that's working on a particular effort already for the Marine Corps and wants a copy, just let me know.
Okay, great, thanks.
Right, and this Jeff, I can also add too, the slides I sent to Roy were all distribution A, so you feel free to distribute those as you see fit.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Jeff. You want to say anything?
Yeah, just some final words. This is Roy Weiser again. When I started out, I mentioned that we have 3 representatives on the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. Myself, representing NSWC Dahlgren, Dam Neck Activity, NavalX Atlantic, Norfolk office, and also NSWC Carter Rock, their Norfolk detachment down here. So if you do have the Tech Bridge was developed, and we have offices out in town in order to help small businesses learn what products and services that they have that can fill the gaps that were just discussed here today. And we're not just looking at it from the Marine Corps, we're also looking at it from a Navy perspective. We've had a previous tech talk with the commander of Subforces Science Advisor. He identified some technologies of interest. And so we're trying to set up these tech talks so we can match up, be the matchmaker between the warfighter gaps and small businesses that might have innovative products and solutions. So that's where we try to, that's our sweet spot, let's put it that way. So you can contact us. It was on the first slide. Again, LinkedIn is a major project thing that we use in order to contact NavalX Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge on LinkedIn, and you'll see all the different posts that we have. Lastly, I'd like to just say thank you to both of our presenters. I really appreciated having someone up at, let's say, the higher levels of the staff with both Louise and Jeff. They basically, it's amazing what they do. It's really Marine Corps Systems Command is where they assigned, but they do, what they do supports the entire United States Marine Corps, and that's important. So again, please take time to get us, take the survey. We do have other upcoming tech talks that talk about gaps and how to fill them. And so I appreciate everybody coming. A nice turnout. And again, thanks to all and everybody at Veterans Day. Just let's remember that too. Okay. Thanks
Don't
again.
forget, hey, Roy, don't forget the Marine Corps birthday, November 10th.
Yeah, I know. It'll be a good one. So, all right, Louise. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. And signing off from here. And again, thanks for showing up.
Yep. Thank you for having us. Appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
Roy.